they had better file some fucking charges on Trump before the Republicans take over in.
I don't think they will. It's very difficult to put charges on a president. Nobody wants to be the person that does that. Nobody wants to be the person who pulls the trigger on that, right?
I think a lot of people do, though, because if you're a DA, that's going to make your career. If you're a Democratic DA, that's going to make your career.
Then why do you think it's taking so long to charge him with anything? I mean, what does this guy really need to do?
At this point, I can only suggest that they are piling up. They're trying to pile up so much evidence against them to make it irreversible and incontrovertible evidence, right? It must be the case that they're working on people. They're trying to get people to flip. And also right now, whoever has held out on flipping on him, they're doing so because they believe, oh, well, maybe he's going to win in 2024, like Trump himself. Or, oh, the Republicans are going to, suspend all this stuff and shut it all down in 2023 when they take back the House and Senate, right?
If they take back the House and Senate.
I think it's almost a foregone conclusion at this point, but that's a separate discussion. So you can only suggest that like soon, because statute of limitations on some of this stuff is going to be up soon anyway. Right. And there's separate investigations going on. There's a federal investigation there. I shouldn't say federal. There's an investigation that's happening with the DOJ. Then there's a separate investigation that's happening with the SDNY. And we're really kind of depending on SDNY, the Southern District of New York, to really deliver, because that's a post that at least is secure beyond, say, like any congressional investigation or anything like that. It's more secure from political intervention.
Okay. Well,
so where the fuck is Merrick Garland? I thought that the guy that was going to be the guy that was going to do it, but he's kind of turning into a Mueller. And it's disappointing because in New York alone, Trump is under investigation for alleged tax fraud. So usually they nail everybody on that. And according to prosecutor Mark, they usually nail everybody on tax fraud, but for some reason they still haven't named him. Although I think what he did with regarding his taxes might actually be the one legal thing he did do. So to tell you the truth, I'm not surprised that they haven't charged him for that yet, because he may just have exploited every legal loophole. It might be unethical, it may even be immoral, but it's certainly not illegal. And if that's what he did, then I take no issue with that, because that's the law. Well, didn't one person in the New York district attorney's office, like one or two people, like quit, and they said, hey,
one of them was the prosecutor, Mark Pomerantz. He actually published his resignation letter in the New York Times and said that according to his perspective, who was guilty of numerous felony violations with regard to falsifying financial statements, and that it would be a grave failure of justice if he were not prosecuted.
There it is. And if you believe that, oh, well, if you prosecute him, then you're going to have, violence in the streets. Well,
we have violence anyway.
Well, yeah, you motherfuckers already came through, and we've seen you do your worst with January 6th. So at worst, you're going to have multiple January 6th, both at the Capitol and in other places. But aside from that, what's the worst y'all can do? Motherfuckers have burnt down cities before. We're not worried about y'all. They're more than capable of handling that. Now, the cops might not feel like handling it. That's the one thing. Cops aren't going to go in there and crack skulls on a bunch of white guys waving Trump flags and American flags and Confederate flags and Nazi flags, because we saw how reluctant they were to deal with January 6th.
Right. Speaking of, one of the charges against Trump is his role in the January 6, 2021 insurrection. He is accused of inciting the riots, which caused physical and emotional harm to police officers, which is kind of bizarre because isn't he part of the whole Blue Lives Matter group? Mm-hmm. He is also facing several lawsuits and criminal investigations into financial improprieties. Most of these cases accuse him of lying or misleading the government about his property's financial values in order to reduce the amount of taxes he paid and his company paid. Boom. He has 2 lawsuits against him for election interference in the 2020 election. The Georgia case itself is a criminal investigation. On top of all of that, personally, he has several accusations of sexual assault of some kind. One was a civil suit that was filed by one of the contestants that was on The Apprentice, Summer Zervos, and she accused him of defamation after he said she lied about him sexually assaulting her.
And let's not forget the famous, Ukraine situation where he was like, give me information on Biden. And if you don't, I'm not going to give you the funding that we promised you. I mean, it's like a laundry list of, charges. I mean, we got people going to jail for stealing backpacks.
Yeah.
I mean,
he just recently said some shit at a rally where he basically like asked Russia for help, very similar to his, Russia, if you're listening, I hope you find Hillary Clinton's emails.
I mean, come on. I mean, is he
right?
Tsunami
of bullshit theory.
It is a tsunami of just bullshit.
If it's a tsunami of bullshit, you can't pick one thing to be outraged about. It's all bullshit all day, hitting you in your face, and eventually you just get fatigued by it.
It's really shameful. I mean, even as I'm looking over, my notes on the lawsuits against him, let's not forget he's also under investigation for violating the Ku Klux Klan Act. He's under investigation for mishandling presidential documents. He's under investigation for defrauding his niece and defaming her. He allegedly fleeced a charity that was for sick children. I don't understand.
And then Trump University?
The Trump University that went nowhere fast. I mean, he did famously say he could walk into the middle of the street and shoot somebody and get away with it. And I'm starting to think he may be onto something. And people who underestimate him and think that he's an idiot, he's certainly not. Because while he might not be the most eloquent speaker you've ever heard in your life, he certainly has his finger on the pulse of like that average 25 to 55-year-old male who's got a chip on his shoulder and is, one hit of MDMA away from being an incel. So he shouldn't be underestimated. There's a good chance he could run again. I don't think he will, but there's a good chance he will. There's talk of Governor DeSantis perhaps running because he's a younger, more handsome, and actually educated version of him. I mean, DeSantis, whether you agree with him or not, he's just not an idiot. So there's
slightly more articulate than Trump, and he has a slightly cleaner record. Let me just, for the record, be clear what Trump did. This is from the Washington Post, 2022, March 29, 2022. Trump suggested that Putin had a window into some of Hunter Biden's work in the region. He came out and said that, Putin should provide more dirt on Hunter Biden, basically. Quote, I would think Putin would know the answer to that. I think he should release it. I think we should know that answer with regards to whatever Hunter Biden was up to.